You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming, and some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Drag, and today I'm coming at you another Let's Play episode of Echo. So, the last place we left off, Brian had just kidnapped us again, and I think he's taking us somewhere up in the mountains or something to that, and he needs us to help him do something. So, I'm curious as to where this is going to go. It seems that Brian has, oddly enough, managed to regain his wits, despite all the chaos and confusion going on around Echo. So, let's see just what this episode holds for us, shall we? Alright, in we go. All around us is gravel, sagebrush, and some cacti. I have no idea where we are. I need to get something, and it's in a place that's too small for me to squeeze into. I need your help to get it, okay? Okay, but what is it? Brian ignores me, looking around. He seems to settle on a direction and sets off, pulling me along with him. Anyway, it makes me think. All these ghosts and UFOs and monsters people see in the woods, I think they're all connected somehow. Yeah? I focus on trying to keep the bear happy, pretending to be interested in his ramblings. Meanwhile, we're not even on a trail, just pushing through thick brush and sharp rocks. Yeah, like little bits of Echo are everywhere in the world, some small like a house and some huge like a town. That makes sense. No, it doesn't. None of this makes sense. But I have to focus on getting away from the bear. I know I should have made a run for it back in the car, but there's no helping that now. We walk for maybe about 100 yards. As we do, the land starts to incline and become steep. Brian even slips up a few times, and I'm worried he's going to fall on top of me. Each time he manages to catch himself, then yank me up after him. After a few minutes of huffing and puffing, we reach a bit of an outcrop with some large boulders. Brian lets go of me and clambers up the side of one, and before I can even think of running, he's turned around and grabbed me by the scruff. I squeak as I'm lifted into the air, feeling like a pup again before I'm set down beside the bear. Brian looks around, keeping a hold of my wrist as he does. After some stomping and looking around with his flashlight, he seems to find what he's looking for. He brings us to the edge of a boulder, then he lifts me up again, this time by the wrist. I kick around for a moment before he lowers me slowly into a dark, spacious hole. I start to wonder if it's going to go down for a while, and I panic, before my feet touch down on soft, cold dirt. Musty, cold air wafts from the black space in front of me. Immediately, Brian drops down next to me, snatching up my paw again. He shines the light into the dark patch in front of me, and I see what looks like a narrow tunnel burrowing into the side of the incline we're on. What is that? Brian grunts and starts to pull me into the opening, but I pull back. Brian yanks me hard, and it feels almost like he dislocates my shoulder. I yelp loudly. Shut up! Brian hisses at me as he turns sideways to better fit into the tunnel. It's the mine, you idiot! What? I look back at the opening back toward Echo, gently illuminated by moonlight. I thought it was sealed. It is. This is the back entrance. Duke told me about it a few years ago. Said his family's known about it for decades. We push through for a while until we come to another tunnel, this one twice as wide as the one we were just in. Ooh, that's creepy looking. It branches to the left and to the right. Brian stands there for a moment, inhaling deeply as he looks around. Hang on, it's been a while. I can't help myself from blurting out. You don't know where to go? I expect him to hit me or something, but he ignores me. Finally, he pulls me to the left. The idea of being trapped here with Brian, lost in a mine, is more terrifying than anything that's happened in the town so far. The air is so musty and dry, and I feel like coughing and sneezing at the same time, but I try to hold it in so I don't upset Brian. We walk for another 10 minutes or so, taking a few more turns. I try to memorize the route in case I'm able to break free, but after 5 or so branches, I realize I can't remember the second or third. Brian suddenly speaks up, nearly making me jump in the darkness. After a while, I stopped seeing aliens. His grip is tight, and I can feel that the circulation in my paw is cut off. It's like it's just a mass of pins and needles at this point. Now I just see people. What kind of people? People you know? I try to keep Brian talking while I think. At some point, he's going to have to let go of me again, and it's then that I'm going to have to make a run for it, no matter what. Kudzu probably saw which direction we drove off in, and he probably went to Leo to get the car. But at this point, I doubt they're going to be able to find us, at least not in time. We went into the mountains, probably through some back road that none of us even knew existed. Then Brian took me through hundreds of yards of desert to find a tiny opening behind some fucking boulders. There's no way they're going to find me here. I'm on my own. Well, I see just one person, but the person changes every now and then. Brian pauses, looking into a narrow opening in the tunnel wall, even more narrow than the first passage. Depending on who it was I last knew. Before I can figure out what he meant by that, I'm shoved hard, forced into the passage in front of Brian. It's just wide enough that I can walk straight, my shoulders nearly touching both sides. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna save it right here, not pause it. Nah, we got plenty of time to go. Brian, on the other hand, has to suck in and move sideways, grunting and cursing and making all kinds of noises. Brian lets go of me as he tries to pull himself through, though he keeps knocking into me to send me forward. I could try to escape, but I have a feeling that doesn't exist ahead of me. In fact, it feels like I'm being trapped. I can't explain it, but I start to get a terrible feeling that something awful is waiting for me at the end of this passage. Then I start to smell something. It's old and almost covered up by the dust and mustiness, but it's definitely there. Sweet and sick. Something rotting. It feels like ice water is poured down my back and I freeze, only to be given a shove by the bear behind me. I fall forward into a wider opening. The smell entombs me, and I know without looking that I'm surrounded by death. I lay there on the floor, not moving, listening to Brian as he tries to squeeze through the opening. I can remember years ago when I was maybe 12, walking along the dirt road back home after hanging out with Carl. On the side of the road I saw some roadkill, and just as I passed by, I could see the white maggots writhing through the fur. The smell for that single moment was almost unbearable, and I gagged and ran past. And while the odor in here is a bit more faint, it's almost exactly the same. I hear Brian finally shift free from the exit, and he shines the light back down on me. I know I should run. I know I need to get the fuck out of here. I know I should be fighting like hell. Because I know what's coming. Is this what it's like for people who get kidnapped or murdered? People wonder why they didn't fight harder or run when they had the chance. I should have ran the second we stopped in the truck. But right now, it's like I'm stuck in ice. My frantic thoughts are interrupted as Brian grasps me by the back of the shirt and pulls me back up to my feet. I'm not able to stand and just sort of crumple down next to him. The bear grunts and just drags me along into the little opening that we're in, dropping me against the wall. As Brian fumbles with the flashlight, I get a glimpse of my surroundings. It's small, maybe about 15 feet long and 10 feet wide. It's narrow enough that Brian takes up most of the space, and I'd be hard-pressed to get past him. I draw my knees up to my chest and hug them, feeling numb. God, you're such a useless piece of shit. I watch Brian lean over something against the wall. It looks like two long, polished pieces of wood. Brian tips the flashlight down, and I see that those pieces of wood are attached to a shovel and a pickaxe. Brian grabs the pickaxe, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think he's going to turn to me. But instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out something small and rectangular. It's not until he opens it and shines his flashlight on it that I see it's some kind of small notebook. The bear looks at the notebook, then back up at the little cave we're in. The silence is almost unbearable, and I feel the need to say something, if only to fill that silence. What are you doing? You know exactly what he's doing. Brian ignores me as he continues to search for something. I whimper softly in the back of my throat. Please. About to be murdered, and you just beg like a little bitch. Shut up! I can't help it as I hiss through my teeth at that goddamn voice. I don't need to hear it, especially now. Brian stiffens and turns around. What? I shake my head, squinting unable to see his face as the bear turns the light on me. Nothing, I just... No. You were talking to something. Did you see someone? No, I don't know. I shut my eyes against the light and only see blood red. Brian chuckles and my vision goes back to black as he takes the light off me. I was the same way as you. Let me tell you something, though. Ignoring it ain't gonna make it go away. Brian finally stops scanning the ground and crouches down. It takes me a moment to realize what he's looking at until he reaches down and picks it up. A smooth stone. Brian looks at it for a moment, thinking. Then he drops it off to the side and looks back down at his book. Danielle, 19, ferret. He was the smallest, I think. Should be enough room. Brian shines the light back down at the ground for a moment, and seems to make up his mind as he sets the butt of the flashlight on the ground. It brightly lights up the ceiling, leaving us in a dim yellow glow. Brian eyes me for a moment, positioning himself so he can watch me while doing his work. Crouching over, Brian starts breaking through the hard surface of the dirt with the pickaxe, grunting with each stroke. He can only do little short swings, the ceiling too low for Brian to stand up straight. At this point, the smell of Brian has almost overwhelmed the stench of death. I guess it's one of the few things I don't mind his smell covering up. Let me save it right here. Man, this is intense. Why? Why aren't you at least trying to escape? Because he's in the way. Because you're a coward. Why the fuck are you talking to me now? I thought you left! I never left. You know that. You felt me even after you left the town. I shouldn't have come back. Probably not. I'm going insane. Brings back memories of my old life. I'm going insane and it's bringing back all of my old demons. No. I think it's because you're in the mine. I think you figured out that it's the source of everything. Haven't you? The voice I've been trying to ignore all week has changed. It's not vague or insidious anymore. It's more natural, like a real person. More like what I used to hear when I was a kid. Well, I was a real person. Sometimes I even doubt I am that person. It chuckles and I feel the back of my brain itch. More like a... what do you call it? A simulation. It waits for an answer, but I don't want to talk to it. Oh, stop pretending I'm not here. You can feel me. You felt me looking over your shoulder since you got here. I let my head thump against my knees, closing my eyes. Well, really, ever since Sydney. Just ignore it. But I can understand. Even I feel as though something is controlling me. It's the oddest thing. Hey! I snap my head up, jumping as I find the bear staring right at me. The hell are you mumbling? Nothing. Brian chuckles again and reaches across to the other wall, grabbing the shovel. He starts digging up the loose patch of dirt in front of him. Yeah, keep it to yourself, I guess. But like I said, you ain't the only one. Brian gestures behind him with a thumb toward the ground. I look and see nothing except a few stones on the ground. After Rachel back there, things got way worse than aliens for me. I saw her at night, crawling on my ceiling, peeking out from under my bed, staring at me from my window. Brian grunts as he digs the shovel deep, then lifts, turning a pile of dirt out to the side. So did Duke. Drove him crazy, turned him into a speed addict. Not that I mind, he was always my most reliable customer. The sick, sweet smell starts to grow again, and it's starting to become overpowering. I feel like I should keep him talking, get him comfortable, and buy myself more time. Should you, though? Who's Rachel? Duke's wife. I try to remember what I know about Duke's marriage, aside from the fact that he isn't married anymore. I realize that I do remember Rachel, but just barely. She was only around while I was in grade school, and I was pretty nice as far as I can remember. Didn't he divorce her? Brian shrugs as he stops digging, resting on the handle. I guess he sorta did, but I mean, she was dead by then. They wanted my stuff, but I didn't have the money, so I cut him a deal to fuck for the drugs instead. I mean, I can't say I like bitches at all, annoying and whiny, but she let me go way farther than Duke ever did, so I mainly fucked around with her. It's not hard for me to picture exactly what that fucking was. And one day, I guess I went too far. She died, and we buried her right there. Brian points more specifically at a rock sitting against the other side of the wall. The big bear starts to dig again, more vigorously, lengthening the patch he's working on. But I didn't see her until right after I buried her, maybe a week later. The bear shakes his head and laughs mockingly. You'd think that'd stop me from doing it again, but you know, when that last breath came out of her and she sort of shuddered on the table. Brian glances up at me. Blew my load without even touching it. Made me wonder how good it could be with a guy if it was that good with a bitch. You want him to keep talking? Brian pauses in his sudden spurt of digging and looks up at me again. Probably wondering why I'm telling you this, thinking I'm crazy. But I don't know, it feels good to tell someone. You're like my own therapy otter. The bear looks back down at the hole he made. The smell coming out of it is so overpowering, I'm on the verge of gagging again. I don't see her anymore, though. It changes with each one. 7 stones. And it'll probably change again. And with that, the bear comes at me. The space is so small it only takes him 2 steps. I scream and cover my face. Coward. And try to fold up into as tight a ball as I can. But before I know it, Brian has me by the back of the shirt. He drags me over until I'm kneeling next to the hole. I can see it's definitely a grave now. You already knew. Because I can see the bones poking through the dirt, the bits of blue and white cloth that were its clothes. You mean Daniel, the 19-year-old ferret. I feel like me telling you all this to you, and me being nice to you so far, maybe don't come back after me. Just move on. I feel Brian move around behind me and press something cold into the back of my head. A gun. I guess Brian probably has plenty of those. I'm doing the town some good after all. How? I blurt out, my mind racing, trying to think of something, anything to get out of this. Brian does pause, though. How what? How is this helping anyone? Why are you doing this? A few seconds go by, and I'm sure I'm about to hear the crack of the pistol, the last thing I'll ever hear. Then Brian sighs. Again, I feel like I should tell you everything so you know, so you don't have to come back and fuck with me. But Duke, he said this all started when you came back. I told you, I have no idea why. My voice raises in pitch and I start to panic. Duke had already tried to kill me Duke had tried to kill me even after we tried to convince him I had nothing to do with any of this. Not any of this? Are you sure of that? I feel Brian set his feet behind me, and I can picture him getting ready to pull the trigger. I'm going to die. This keeps happening, doesn't it? This hysteria. I'm sorry. Remember, this is for the good of the town. To me, it's like the town holds its breath, letting all the evil build up until it has to let it all out in one big go. Brian grips into my head fur, pressing the barrel of the gun into the back of my head. And you brought a lot of guilt and evil with you back to this town. Maybe that was enough to push it over the edge again. Rest easy. So in a way, it is your fault, isn't it? My eyes are watering, and I don't know if it's from Brian's grip on my fur or if I'm crying. Help me! I say it to you. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. What is happening? I glance to my right and see something standing in the entrance to our little hollow. It's faint, either because of the dim lighting or because the thing itself isn't quite opaque. It's tall, white, and gangly, and its long fingers nearly touch the ground. Its face is heart-shaped, the whiteness of it interrupted by massive, shiny black eyes in its face. It stands there motionless, watching us. I stare back, open-mouthed. Brian must have taken notice, because the next thing I know, the bear squeals. It's so loud and high-pitched, I wince. Brian lets me go just as the thing moves. It seems to lean forward and glide towards us, but the gliding is stilted like a film with half-seconds missing from it. It flickers, seemingly to turn transparent as it grows closer, the white fading to pink, then a bright red for a brief second before reverting. I'm frozen, kneeling as I watch. Brian backs away and promptly steps on the flashlight. The light careens sideways, and I look over to see Brian's foot slip on the cylindrical flashlight before his rump comes down hard on top of it. All light is extinguished, and I can't see the thing or Brian now. I hear him, though, as he lets out another screech of pure fear, like a wounded animal. I hear something else, too. A voice that's also high-pitched, babbling something fast and senseless. It's like a tape recorder being rewound. Brian's screeching impossibly turns up a notch, and I instinctively move forward, away from the horrible sounds, and I pitch forward into the hole. The smell engulfs me, and I can feel the hard, knobbly things in the dirt around me. Where are we going? Just taking a back road. But we're leaving the city. Yeah, well, I live outside the city. You didn't tell me that. Let's just go back to the club. Alright, pull the fuck over. Let me out. I said pull over. Where the fuck is the lock? You best not be doing that. Hey, get off me! Damn. Oh my god, Alarm Chan. Your freaking timing on this is incredible. What a way to end the episode. Oh my god. That was crazy. Actually, guys, I don't want to go any further right now. I kind of need to catch my breath. Oh lord. Wow, who could have guessed that Brian turned out to be even more of a monster than we could have imagined? You know? Oh, like, wow, what a surprise. Ugh. Ugh. Ooh. Ooh, that episode put a bad taste in my mouth. Oh, man. At least I think he's gonna get what's coming to him. But, oh god, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to the next video. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!